Welcome to the Wealth Across Generations podcast. Hello and welcome to the Wealth Across Generations podcast. I'm your host, David Allen, and this podcast teaches families to thrive at all levels and grow together. Here we explore ideas and answers to how families can be successful, happy, emotionally intelligent, and resilient. Whatever problem you face, you have the ability to solve that problem for not just yourself, but for the generations that come after you. This podcast is a catalyst for your family's intergenerational success, regardless of how much or how little money you have. This is because a sense of connectedness and trust between family members is essential to reaching long-term goals. We will discuss in a future podcast the different types of capitals essential to every family and every creature. Yes, they are that universal. And money? That's just over 12% of it. Another part of it that is upstream from financial capital is culture. Now, every family has a culture, whether you're intentional about it or not. But how much of it is based on shared values and priorities? How much of it has been discussed out loud, regularly, among the members of your family? To quote Thomas Sowell, "Cultures are not museum pieces. They are the working machinery of everyday life. Unlike objects of aesthetic contemplation, working machinery is judged by how well it works compared to the alternatives." Now, from my experience, culture exists on two levels, the individual and the collective. The collective can be broken down into family, the smallest form of government, then on a wider basis into tribe/clan, then community and nation. Eventually, even planetary or species level as we explore the stars. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We will focus primarily on culture at the individual and family level. Despite my conservative Christian bias, all cultures that have bright spots of achievement will be given fair examination to see what principles brought about their phenomenal results in the following areas of wealth, health, and relationships. Cultures are not colors on a flag. They are not which days of the year are holidays or what kind of clothes you wear when dancing in the street. Culture is the machinery of daily life. What is good? What is bad? What is holy and what is profane? What is high value? What is low value? What comes in? And what stays out? In the end, cultures are judged by how well they work. But what are you measuring? There can be many ways to judge the success or failure of a culture, or to rank cultures comparing one to another, but I've found at least 10 ways to rank a culture, and I'd like to share them with you for a moment. Now, I tried my absolute best to rank them in order from most important to least important, but honestly, once you get past about number 3, the rest can be shuffled around however you like, okay? So let's get into them, and I've arranged them in more or less the order I would prioritize them, but I'd like to see what you think. The first one is truth or basedness. One could call this being in alignment with observable patterns of nature as well. You see, if you're religious, there's the book of Scripture, like the Bible, and then there's the book of nature, and then the book of personal experience. The degree to which you deviate from the patterns of nature or from Scripture or from your own personal experience, the higher a price you will pay. Now, if you lived in a subculture that prioritized really terrible things, it can be beneficial to step outside your experience. And sometimes when you think you're stepping out against Scripture, you might actually just be stepping out against an interpretation of Scripture that is serving people who aren't you. But we can focus on that for another time. The important thing is a culture has truth. Believing lies is an empty hole in the ground to pour your time, attention, resources, and your potential down. So that was truth or basedness. Our second most important way to rank a culture would be trustworthiness. Now, trustworthiness is made up of 3 parts, and at this point it's become a trope in some communities because of the earlier work of my co-author Brian Shaw and I. Brian Shaw has done a tremendous job turning trustworthiness into a science that people can understand, and that it's made up of 3 parts. And I'm sure some people listening are like, they can name it right now, but if you don't know them yet, you're going to get a deep dive in a future episode. Trust is the foundation of all relationships. And even if you value all the other metrics I'll discuss, both before with truth and baseness, and the ones that will come after this, They aren't going to last without trust. Trust is fundamental. Okay, so you believe in the truth, or you believe you have the truth and you pursue truth to the best of your ability. You are constantly working on your trustworthiness, both with yourself and the people around you. What comes next? Birth rates. A little politically incorrect, but there it is, birth rates. 2.1 or higher per couple is the basic replacement level. And a lot of societies and civilizations aren't doing so well with that right now. Now, I don't like the word replacement, but you're welcome to message me with a better term. We can go into what makes this number go up and what makes it go down in future podcasts, but suffice it to say, a family with no next generation will soon cease to be a family at the genetic level. Next is longevity. So you got truth, you have trustworthiness, people are being born. Now it's about how long they live. If your family members are dying due to sickness, violence, depression, drugs, or accidents, especially young, then that's not conducive to a successful culture. While some tragedies are unavoidable, a successful family culture ideally looks out for the happiness of each of its members. They talk about things, support one another, and share habits and principles on how to properly manage risk. Next, you could put this near the very top right under trust, but I put it as fourth because, well, they're all really interchangeable once you get to longevity, and that's happiness. How many times have you heard someone say that they could live longer if they could change their lifestyle and adapt a habit that's very distasteful to them? And they're like, well, I'd rather live shorter and enjoy my life. Well, it's that kind of idea, right? Happiness. This is not just an external, good things are happening to me and therefore I am happy kind of happiness. This is a deeper joy. It is the ability to smile and to be content even when things aren't going so great. At the same time, if there are chronic factors affecting the happiness of a family member, we should seek to alleviate that burden, if at all possible. So to review, we have truth, we're trustworthy, we have a sustainable birth rate, we're living a long time, we're happy. This might elicit the envy of some people, which brings us to our next measurement for cultural success, the ability to survive persecution. This ability to survive persecution is a crucial metric in successful cultures, though it may be best to also see how well cultures can avoid becoming magnets for persecution at the same time. Bringing times of trouble upon yourself simply for the sake of antagonizing others is not resilience. It's masochism, basically. And so we don't want to create unnecessary troubles for ourselves, but we do need to stand up for principles that are worth standing up for. The next one, we finally made it to it, economic power. Now, money might not make you happy. Well, actually, scratch that. It totally does, but only up to a point. I think it was Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton. They researched that it was around $75,000 a year at an individual level. But when I read that, it was like a decade and a half ago, and inflation has taken its toll. COVID, the administration from 2020 to 2024, and a few of the things that happened before that too. That's a lot of inflation. So it's probably closer to 110,000, maybe even a little more at this point. Anyway, economic power on an individual level affects the choices you have in life, the ability to prioritize your health, to avoid being forced into dependence on untrustworthy people, and the capacity to be an owner, which is a bedrock of family wealth and security. These factors get increasingly interdependent as we go down the list, which brings us to the next one, achievement. As you can tell, if you achieve a lot, you have a very good chance of having economic power. Now, for many, achievement is also correlated strongly to happiness and even longevity. If you're achieving things, you have something to look forward to, and you're growing. However, it is a downstream effect of a strong family culture built on unconditional love. Otherwise, it won't last beyond 1 to 2 generations, if that. So, you have a pretty good list right now if you have these. You have truth, you're trustworthy, you have a sustainable birth rate, you're living a long time, and you're having a good time doing it. If you encounter times of persecution, you survive and thrive. You have economic power, you're achieving things. The next one would be innovation. Now, this doesn't have to be about new patents. You don't have to be Steve Jobs or Edison. You don't have to spend all day being artsy-fartsy, walking around in the forest finding the perfect stick to write a poem about, if that's not your cup of tea. But having a creative culture in a family is tremendously important, and some families value it more than others and express it in different ways. To my knowledge, Aretha Franklin, Smokey Robinson, Diana Ross, members of the Temptations, and other well-known singers all came from the same neighborhood in Detroit. Now, this isn't just limited to music and Detroit. There are hotbeds of talent everywhere, and they develop where creativity is valued. Some people, and I'm sure you can name one or two people you know off the top of your head, they just can't be happy unless they're able to have part of or most of their life devoted to creativity, and that's just how it is. And in that case, creativity should definitely have a part, maybe even a large part, of a family's culture. And finally, this last one could be a composite of all of these, and that is influence, or soft power. The way a first culture, let's call it culture A, can become so attractive in its values that neighboring cultures, B and C, start adopting the values of that first culture. That is influence, soft power. This can be done in many different ways, such as through honor, the high esteem of others because of your character, achievements, generosity, beauty, being the gatekeepers of what's cool, and probably other things I can't even think of right now. Now, except for honor, this is best recognized after the fact while in pursuit of a real mission, and probably should not be sought out actively. Because the approval of others is very fickle, and it's very easy to be codependent on trying to change yourself to attract people to you rather than having something to really stand for. But it is a valuable metric in transmitting values to the younger generation of your family and to the younger generation of other families. Now, in your own family, there's another way you can build this, and it's actually the best way of all. You can transmit values to the younger generation of your family the most by working with them side by side, having conversations with them, frequent enough to have a shared language, and caring for each other. Now, success at trustworthiness and the other 9, over the course of 100 years or more, and 3+ generations requires wisdom, intelligence, and morality. And this podcast is going to distill timeless wisdom from religion, history, social groups, personal experience, and subject matter experts, when I'm so fortunate as to get them on the podcast. We'll look at lessons from these fields and applications to having a successful family. Some of the topics you'll agree with, and they'll resonate with your soul, and some of them you won't. And that's okay. But you'll at least know what your options are. Learn about people who tried those things, and why different people do the things they do. And as for me, your host, don't see me as some sort of expert who has all the answers. I don't have a family nearly as big or nearly as successful as I intend to, and I might not ever hit that mark. There's a lot of idealism here. I'm just doing a lot of research, pointing in a general direction with a vision of success for my own family, and inviting people to come along and explore with me. My own family came from East Anglia in England to Massachusetts Bay Colony in the 1600s. And I'm just one of hundreds who came from that line, just trying to figure things out. I'm combining that with life experience living on several continents, getting an MBA, and working as a writer and teacher. And only now I'm sharing my research with you. Then it's your turn. You'll have the opportunity to invite your people into this. It could be a close family member you trust, a fiancé you are about to marry, an adult child, a non-adult child, depending on the topic, or the nuclear family as a whole, at what may be the first of many family meetings. The first thing you can do is subscribe to this podcast to support it in the algorithms and make it easier for you to find. The next step is to share it with a family member or friend with whom you have the deepest conversations and the highest amount of trust. It could be as simple as sharing a link, or you can add something along the lines of, "This podcast is covering some things I've been thinking about for a while, and for the sake of my family, I'd really like to start having conversations like these." I plan on using a platform in the future, maybe Substack, for example, for additional things like extended interview content when I'm fortunate enough to have those talks, implementation guides, AI prompts, and resources to explore the topics we cover further. I also hope to use it to let you know when the next episode is out, and as a community forum where others who share this interest can talk about long-term financial planning, family governance, culture, etc. It's a place where people from all backgrounds can check each other's notes to find out what's good so we can all succeed together. This podcast is covering things I've been thinking about for a while. And for the sake of my family, I'd really like to start having conversations like these. If you do too, I'll catch you on the next episode.